Hello, welcome to Alyssa Jean's Reviews. My name, if you don't know already, is Alyssa, and this is my full review for Euphoria Season 2. If you have not seen all the way through the end of Euphoria Season 2, then you should not watch this video unless you don't mind being spoiled. If you don't mind being spoiled, then that's your choice. But this video will be full of spoilers. So, Euphoria is a show I have not covered before on this channel or my previous channel, Acton Tomko's Reviews. And in fact, I very rarely cover anything that isn't sci-fi or fantasy. But I wanted to review this show because of the impact Season 1 did have on me, which I didn't see it when it originally aired in 2019. I saw it early 2021. Season 1, that is, and I was blown away. It was a very powerful show, but very hard to binge because I had to let each episode sit before I can move on to the next episode, and I really kind of like that about it. So I was very happy to hear Season 2 was coming out early in 2022. And so I thought, I should review it now that it's over. But I will say, as impressed as I was with Season 1, Season 2... Okay, so let me tell you how I'm going to do this. I'm doing a little different format than I've done before. I'm going to do pluses and minuses, and I'm going to alternate. So a plus will be something, obviously, that was very positive that I really liked about Season 2, and a minus will be something that is negative and I didn't like. And I'm just going to be honest about this. I am completely ripping this off from Trek Culture. There's a channel called Trek Culture that I watch for Star Trek content, and they do the ups and downs of a Star Trek episode. And this is the same concept, except mine's are pluses and minuses, so it's totally different. So I'm going to go through some of those, and then at the end of this video, that is when I'll give my overall thoughts, which is something I usually do at the beginning, but I'm going to do it at the end, and that will just transition nicely into my rating for the season out of 10. So without further ado, let's start with the pluses and minuses of Season 2 of Euphoria. Alright, I'm going to lead off with the biggest plus, the thing that is most positive about Season 2 in my eyes. And the big plus is Rue's drug addiction and the way that it was portrayed in Season 2. This obviously is something that they got into in Season 1, but they really took it to the next level in Season 2. Now, I personally have not dealt with addiction or had a close family member or close friend to deal with addiction to this level, but from what I have heard, that it is a very realistic portrayal of that, and I can believe that. It covers it in all angles, not just what Rue herself is going through, but how it affects her family. And I really appreciated in episode 6 when Ali comes into the picture and tells Gia, it is okay to not forgive Rue. It is okay to be mad at her. I really appreciated that because I think that is important. I think that was a very important message. And I liked Gia stepping it up a little bit in this season, becoming a little bit more of a well-rounded character, even if it was just as a supporting character in Rue's story. She had her own voice a little bit more this season, and I did appreciate that. But the main reason why this is the big plus is that 5th episode of the Rue Rock Bottom episode, where she is just running around wreaking havoc, causing damage everywhere she goes, in order to just get the next fix. I honestly think that this is one of the best episodes that I've seen on television in a while, just like individual episodes. It is near perfection, though it lacks perfection because they had to throw in this goofy 1980s comedy style police chase where Rue runs through people's backyards and knocks over barbecue grills and knocks over wedding cakes. That was a bit silly, but it doesn't detract from the overall brilliance of this episode and how it really does an excellent job of portraying Rue's rock bottom. So it was rock bottom for Rue, but it was the peak of season 2 for me, right in the middle of the season at episode 5. So Rue's drug addiction and the way it was portrayed is the biggest plus of this season. Now, let's get into the minuses, and I'm going to start with the biggest minus of the season. This is the most negative thing in the season, and honestly, it really drags the season down quite a lot. And that is Lexi's play. Lexi's play is the biggest minus of the season. So, okay. If you're familiar with my channel, you know that I cover Star Trek, Star Wars, I cover the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I watch shows all the time about spaceships traveling at warp speed and meeting bumpy head aliens and dudes with helmets on fighting against monsters or riding monsters to fight against other monsters, or dudes shooting webs out of their hands and slinging from building to building because they got bit by a radioactive spider. I've watched all of that, and this plays the most unrealistic thing that I've seen on TV or movies in a long time. It is more unrealistic than any of that. I would sooner buy that a bunch of people are going to fly through space in the future and meet a bunch of bumpy head aliens, or that a big giant creature, green guy, is going to go Hulk smash and throw a car at people. I would sooner buy any of that than I could buy this fucking play. Like, it's the most unrealistic thing I've ever seen. So let me go through this. I actually didn't like it when the whole concept of it was first introduced. So it's introduced in an earlier episode where Lexi approaches an administrator or a teacher, I'm not sure who, and she's like, hey, I wrote this play, can I put it on? And he's like, yeah, sure. Really? Any student can just go, oh, I wrote this play, can I put it on? Yeah, you can put it on. I'm not going to approve it, read over it, scrutinize it in any way, check it for content, check and make sure you're not putting a play on about your friends and classmates and siblings. I'm not going to scrutinize it in any way at all. What? And I'm not going to look and make sure there isn't like inappropriate sexual content, like big gay orgies going around where people are basically coming all over each other with champagne bottles or whatever it was. I'm not going to check for that. I'm not going to check to make sure people aren't smoking joints on stage or having any inappropriate sexual content, masturbating on a fucking merry-go-round on stage. I'm not going to check it whatsoever. Also, we're not going to come to the play to help make sure you run it correctly. We're not going to have any adults there whatsoever. You look backstage, it's Lexi running around going, oh, you people, you need to get your shit together. Where the fuck are the adults? So it's like, I'm sorry, there's 0% chance that it's ever going to happen. And I just could not buy this play at all. There's 0% chance. And I haven't even gotten into the fact that this high school is apparently the richest high school in the United States, where they can afford Broadway quality sets and props and also have millions of crew members who can go around and disassemble and reassemble these Broadway quality props and sets in minutes because this is a Broadway quality play in a high school apparently, and Lexi is able to organize these like complicated Broadway style numbers and just the choreography is Broadway level. Like, I'm sorry, but a dude flying around with a cape and using his heat vision on people is way more realistic than this play. I just can't buy it. Now, why does this bother me so much? It's because the lack of reality and the whole concept of this play takes me completely out of the story. Like, they were trying to do this clever, oh, look at us, we get to play, and then it bleeds into the real life scenes. But I just could not invest myself in it because I was too busy just not buying this play. I was just completely taken out of the story. So whatever they were trying to accomplish with this play did not work for me because I could just not buy it. I felt really taken out of the story. So this play is the big minus of the season and really, really hurt the season a lot, especially since they decided to frame the final 2 episodes around this play. The season just didn't have a great ending for me. Like, I don't really like the last episode because they still focus on this dumbass fucking play. So, endings of seasons are important to me. And the fact that this is how they ended it doesn't bode well for the season overall. I'm sorry. It's unfortunate because it did peak right in the middle of the season. Episodes 4, 5, and 6 I think were excellent. It goes downhill after that, unfortunately. Okay, all right. So after that rant, we can go back into the positives, the pluses. So I'm going to get into some character pluses and minuses now. So the first character plus is Fresco. Big plus for what they did with Fresco this season. I'm always fascinated by these types of characters in fiction. These drug dealers who basically, just by the fact that they, deal drugs, are horrible people, and yet are more complex than that. Fresco is a good guy, and they really explore his character a lot more in the season. They, in fact, open up the season with him doing an episode that kind of dives into his background with his grandmother and how he got started in all this. And I really, really enjoyed that. I thought that was really very interesting. And then, of course, there's his very interesting friendship / relationship with Lexi. I always love when you can take these mismatched people and really make them work together on screen and really give them great chemistry. And these 2 characters most definitely did. Of course, very tragic ending for Fresco, particularly for Ashtray, who should have listened to Fresco. You didn't have to cut the guy, like, they totally had it taken care of. So, very tragic, but an overall very strong story for this character. All right, now I've got to get into a character minus, and this one makes me really sad. Big minus for Jules, or the way that Jules was handled in season 2, to be more specific. I, of course, was really drawn to Jules as a character in season 1 because she's trans. I am trans, and I really appreciated the way she was portrayed in season 1, where her transness was kind of, beside the point. She was just another teenager going through teenage problems. So I liked that from a humanistic perspective, that they were treating her like a regular human being, but at the same time, they weren't erasing her trans identity. That was still very much a part of her character in season 1, and she had a very interesting character journey in season 1. And then there was the 2 specials or bonus episodes that took place between season 1 and 2, one about Rue and one with Jules, and it was just Jules sitting there talking to her therapist for an hour. That was good stuff. That was one of the better hours of television I've seen as far as truly representing the trans experience. Also, that therapist in that episode was a really good therapist. She did what good therapists should do, is really challenge Jules, and I loved it. So I had high expectations for what they were going to do with Jules in season 2, and they turned Jules into a supporting character. She doesn't have her own story. She doesn't have her own voice. Her entire existence is just so that she could be a part of Rue's story, so that she can be a part of Rue's intervention, so she can tell Rue how she was hurt by Rue. and tell Rue at the end how she loves her, and then barely getting any lines in the last 2 episodes because of that stupid fucking play. What happened? What did they do? Jules was really one of the big selling points for me for season 1. So I don't know. It looks like maybe Jules and Rue have separated. I hope so. Maybe in season 3, Rue and Jules can do their own things. Jules can now finally get her own story. I personally would be very much in favor of Jules leaving this show and getting her own spin-off show, like moving, go off to college or whatever, and like having her own, not adventures, but her own story. But if she's going to stay on Euphoria, which every indication is that she will, I just totally made that whole spinoff thing up off the top of my head. But assuming she'll stay on Euphoria, then I think they really need to give her her own story and give her her voice back. Give her her trans identity back, because her trans identity was just kind of erased in this season. While I did appreciate how they didn't define her by her trans identity in season 1, season 2, she didn't have one. So very, very disappointing. Very disappointing for season 2. Moving on to my next character plus. A big plus for Lexi. Now, this might seem a little bit contradictory because I just was talking about how I hated that play, and that was basically what her whole story was about in season 2. But not really. There was more to it than that. What I really appreciated about what they did with Lexi is, first of all, they gave her more of a character. Like, they made her more of a well-rounded human being, whereas season 1, she was a nothing background character. But what they did was really develop some relationships with her. Of course, Fresco, as I mentioned before, that was a very interesting relationship. And they did dive a little bit more into her relationship with Rue, because that was a relationship that was strongest before the show starts. So it was in the past. And it was something we were told but never shown. And we were shown it this year. Even if they did use that crappy play to do a lot of that showing, I still really did appreciate what they did with Lexi's character. And I just love that Lexi and Fresco dynamic. So I will give a plus for Lexi in season 2. Now, moving on to another character minus. Cat. What the fuck? What the fuck did they do with Cat? Whereas Jules was relegated to a supporting character, Cat was relegated to a background character. She's practically an extra. There are literally scenes where she's sitting there saying nothing. She's just sitting there like drinking a beer. She had one scene where she gaslights Ethan and acts like a total bitch, and that's it. They did not follow up on her season 1 story at all, and that is also disappointing. She's also part of a marginalized group, and not one that I personally belonged with, as with Jules. But she's an overweight teenage girl. That's a tough thing to be, and I think they did a really good job of just showing her struggles in season 1, and a lot of things that she decided to do to really give herself power and take control for herself were things that probably made some audience members uncomfortable, made me uncomfortable at times. But I think it's good to make the audience a little uncomfortable, to show the struggles of this girl who was looked as overweight in high school, and how that's so difficult to deal with as a teenage girl, and some of the things that she has to try to do to take power for herself. And I found that really fascinating in season 1, completely dropped in season 2. I have heard a little bit about how the actress was not pleased with how her character was treated in season 2. I haven't really dove deep into all those details, but I could imagine she would be. I probably would be too if I were her. What the fuck did they do with this character? Just completely drop her after a very strong season 1. So really, really disappointing to see what they did with Kat in season 2. Okay, one last round of pluses and minuses for characters, and a plus goes to Cal. How did they manage to make us feel sympathy for Cal? I don't know. He was portrayed as a really horrible person in season 1. He's having sex with underage people, men, women, trans women, cis women, and just cheating on his wife, recording it all. By all accounts, and not an amazing father. Although I think that's more telling than showing, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about when I get to my minus. But he really wasn't a sympathetic character at all in season one, and then here they come around in season two and make us feel for him. I really felt for this character. And this actor, I don't know him super well. I looked up his IMDb. He's been in various things that I've seen him in before, but nothing that really stands out. But he was phenomenal. That episode 4, I believe it was, the one where he pisses all over the carpet. It was phenomenal. And episode 3, I believe, is when we get his backstory that he has this repressed homosexuality, and he's been forced to live a lie his whole life. They really, really made me feel for him. So I think that's a really great accomplishment for the show in season 2. If nothing else, making me feel sympathy for Cal, that is quite an accomplishment. Didn't love what they did with him at the end of the season, but overall, big plus for Cal. So on the flip side of that, a minus for Nate, Cal's son. So it's obvious that Nate is the least likable character on the show. He is designed to be that. But that's just the problem. He's too unlikable. I just almost can't even buy just how evil he is. And they want us to believe that Cal has fucked him up in some way. But how? For a second in episode 7, I thought maybe they were implying that Cal had molested him when he was younger. But then episode 8, he comes back and clarifies that those were just dreams that he had based off of watching his father's tapes. Now, I mean, that's a pretty fucked up thing for a young kid to watch, but it's not like Cal showed it to him. That shit was under lock and key. Dude went in and looked for it. So I'm not saying Cal's dad of the year or anything like that, but I haven't seen anything on the show where Cal did anything that terrible to make Nate into the most evil teenager in the history of the world. Like, he is pure evil. He just plots and plans to just fuck people over in the most evil ways possible. And I just don't buy it. There's not really true villains in a show like this. If there was a villain, he's the closest thing to one. And if he was a villain, I would refer to him as a one-dimensional, mustache-twirly villain. Like, there's no dimensionality to him. He's one-dimensional. He's not well-rounded at all. He's just too evil. I just really have a hard time buying that there would be a teenager that evil, especially when the show has not given us enough traumatic background to make me believe that anything happened in his life to make him that way. We do get the line from his mom just wondering what happened to him and how he suddenly turned evil. It's not good enough. I just don't buy this as a character. Okay, so let me kind of give my overall thoughts to wrap things up and then get into my rating out of 10 for the season. So this was a disappointing season after season 1, though it does have some of the singular best moments and best episodes of the series, particularly in episodes 4 and 5 and 6, especially episode 5. Overall, it's kind of all over the place. Reminds me of Star Wars: The Book of Boba Fett in that way, although the best episodes here were way better than the best episodes of Book of Boba Fett, and it's like comparing apples and oranges anyway, two completely different genres, but it reminds me of it in that when it was good, but overall it was not cohesive, it was all over the place. Season 1 did delve into different character stories each episode, but it still seemed to have one cohesive story, one through line that you could follow. This felt a little all over the place. And in the end, we don't get any closure for Rue and Jules. We get barely any closure for Rue. It's just that stupid play. So the play really, really hurts this season. And it's unfortunate because this season also contains some of the highest quality television I've watched in a while. So, with all of that, let me give my overall rating. So, 1 would be the lowest possible score I could give, 10 would be the highest possible score I would give. And out of 10, I'm going to give season 2 of Euphoria a 7. And it's only that high because of the highs of the season, because of episode 5 and the way they handled Rue's addiction, which is phenomenal. But for that stupid play, and especially for breaking my heart by erasing the one trans character and just making her a supporting character, that was hard. So I almost feel like I might be being too generous to giving it a 7, but I just loved that episode 5 so much. And episode 4 too, the one with Cal when he pees all over the carpet. I really love that episode too. So overall, averages out to a 7. That's about a C- if you're keeping a score at home. So that will do it. That's it for my review of Euphoria Season 2. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. You can check out all of my personal transition videos where I talk about my transition. I also do a series called Nostalgia Lane, where I review a film from my youth, and I do that once a month. And I also do Star Trek and Star Wars if you're into sci-fi stuff and Marvel. So please subscribe. Please like this video, and I will see you really soon. Bye-bye, everyone.